What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Blitz Angle. I'm Ryan Linkletter here with my co-host Brady Penn. We had a great Monday Night Football game tonight between the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. You know, the spread was actually over 7 points, and a lot of people thought this one was going to be close. But with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, the Bucs are always frisky. Brady, what are your initial takeaways from the Chiefs overtime win over the Bucs?
Well, like you just tweeted, sorry, I said cheated. Like you just tweeted, the Chiefs is still the Chiefs. They just find ways to get it done at the end of games. And I mean, it just comes down to their experience, their coaching, and then their quarterback who seems to always make the right play. And I think Troy Aikman said earlier in the broadcast, never really gets fooled. And sure, he's not making a ton of the highlight plays, he's not making a ton of incredible throws, but he's making the right reads. And I know as a Brady fan, a lot of people in this group will want to hate on it, but he's making the right decisions. You can't fault a guy for going to open guys and recognizing coverages. So there's that. There's the Buccaneers. I mean, they're free falling right now. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. Part of it's due to injury. Part of it's due to coaching, like I think was a factor tonight. And Kate Otten, that's the number one big positive on this offense right now.
Absolute dog. Let's just say that.
Yeah, he's starting to emerge. And in Brady's last year in Tampa, I recognized him as a pretty good player. Didn't realize that he was going to start doing exactly what he's doing this year, especially these last few weeks. But he's a really good player. Both defenses clearly got tired on their last series, respectively. But overall, I think it was still pretty great performance by the Kansas City defense, even if it fell through on that last drive. I mean, their pass rushers getting home all night. Chris Jones had a great game. It's just the secondary is a question mark with these guys.
Yeah. Shout out to our early bird, T2s, loyal follower of the stream.
Yes,
Welcome to
sir.
that chat, early birds. Hey, if you are an early bird in this stream, let us know down below. We will give you a shout out right away. We will be getting to those questions after our initial analysis of this game. So drop those down below. But yeah, just like you mentioned, you know, the Buccaneers are scrappy, but obviously losing 4 out of 5, they're just not. It's going to be tough to come back at this point. It feels like for the Bucs, the Falcons have maintained that lead in the South now, and it feels like the South is almost out of reach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The wild card, they're still in the play for it, but obviously the NFC is a little bit tougher to get in compared to the AFC. If they were in the AFC, I'd feel more comfortable potentially saying that they would make a playoff run, but we got some early birds talking it up here. We got Jacob with the woof. We got Ashton Stern with a Hawk Tua. I mean, the early birds are out. But yeah, kind of going off of what you mentioned with the Chiefs defense. I've been seeing rumors about Marshawn Lattimore potentially heading over to Kansas City, and I'm not buying that one bit. They have no cap space to be able to afford him.
Can
And
I
they
say
do have problems at cornerback, too. They do. I agree. They're, some of
uh,
the trades, did you see some of these trades on Twitter
no,
that
no,
it
no.
was like
I gotta
Tyreek
say,
Hill?
put it on blast here. I saw a tweet today that was like, "Oh, the Chiefs are the favored odds team to land Christian Gonzalez." No, that's not happening. The
Hey,
Panthers.
that's when you know the trade deadline's coming up, when every single player that's on a losing team is mocked to get traded to somebody. It
Right.
was like Tyreek Hill today getting traded to the Chiefs. It was Chase Young actually might be an interesting name to watch on a 1-year contract. Uh, he might be able to head. I saw Cincinnati potentially could be an option. Baltimore could be an option. That'll be interesting to see. But
I was
talking
gonna
about
say
this game tonight,
Baltimore.
what were you saying?
I was gonna say for Chase Young, maybe Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincy, one of those teams.
Yeah, one of the things that I found interesting tonight about this game, I know we were going back and forward with it. The Chiefs, right? The offense isn't explosive. It's not pretty by any means, but they just methodically move the ball down the field. They're the best third down team in the NFL this season. I don't think Mahomes threw an incompletion on third down until that Samaje Perine drop on that second to last drive of the game.
They're
But
also
they just
second
don't
in
score quick.
early downs.
What do you say?
They're second on early downs as well. They're just incredibly efficient.
Yeah, the biggest thing is those field goals kind of switching into touchdowns in the second half of this year. And what do you know? DeAndre Hopkins in the red zone is a threat, which we both thought was the case. But what I don't think either of us expected was Hopkins to be this good this early on in the Chiefs offense. He basically has been kind of plug and play for them, it seems like, except for that drive right before like 20 seconds left, wasn't on the same page there. But besides that, him and Mahomes were on the same page. Kelsey, obviously. What I don't understand is how Kelsey is always just open down the short routes. They're just basically giving him
Trust me, we everybody that doesn't like the Chiefs, we've all been wondering the same thing for years.
It's weird because he's always
Savvy though. He's savvy.
he's one of the smartest like receivers slash tight ends we've ever seen, and he's always finding a way to get open in space. But it's crazy how he's always open. He's not athletic right now, and he's always open. But what I will say on the Chiefs side of things, it'll be interesting to see if they do make another move because we have to talk about Xavier Worthy. This guy is cheeks. Brady, I'll let you kind of go off on him a little bit.
Well, we said it last week, or at least I mentioned it. It's funny. The Bills just got clowned to no end for letting the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy just because people saw the 40 speed and got clowned for taking Keon Coleman, who admittedly I wasn't super high on Keon Coleman either, but I thought he was a better prospect, at least pro ready wise, than Xavier Worthy. And a lot of my friends, when I was talking to them about Xavier Worthy, they thought it was just like Chiefs hate or copium or whatever you want to call it. I said Xavier Worthy has legitimate flaws in his game and big question marks. Like, yes, his straight line speed is incredible, but he doesn't do well against press coverage. He's not very good with his route running. His hands are questionable sometimes. He drops some easy passes, and he doesn't have a great space awareness, it feels like. So those are my question marks for him coming into the league, and they seem pretty validated right now. It seems like Andy Reid has to really try hard to specifically scheme things for him that are simple, little arc routes, go balls down the field. He's not offering a whole lot, whereas Keon Coleman has been a big add for the Bills offense and has progressed throughout the season. So just between the two of those, I think the early returns are pointing towards Buffalo actually making the right move, but we'll see. I mean, it's tough to give up on somebody 8 games into their NFL career. Obviously, we're not doing that, but we'll see where he comes into the mix, especially if Hollywood Brown does come back later this year. That probably scoots him back even more. But right now, it seems pretty clear that the 3 guys this offense is running through are going to be Hopkins, Kelsey, and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, and we saw towards the end of the game, Worthy actually was getting less snaps. We saw McCole Hardman actually more implemented in that role compared to Worthy, which was interesting to see. The thing with Worthy, I mentioned this to you, like he's one of the fastest guys in the NFL. That's just true. Besides that, like he's a high school talent at receiver. He doesn't run good routes. He has no spatial awareness on the field. And whatever they're trying to do to get him the ball, it never works. Whenever he's on the field, teams just know he's a gadget guy right now, and then they got to be aware for a reverse, a quick pitch pass, or something down the field. And even when it is down the field, we talked about this, Mahomes has struggled hitting him. And then the one on the sideline today, Worthy had no clue where he was on the field. So Worthy's got a lot of obstacles to overcome. And obviously, it feels like he was thrust in a position a little ahead of schedule compared just because of the injuries. So I don't think they were expecting him to play him this much yet. But it's been really disappointing considering they spent a first-round draft pick on him and traded up for him. So obviously not great for the Chiefs, but they're going to have to ride with them, and hopefully he'll be better down the stretch for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that what you can expect from Xavier Worthy on his best day is 3 or 4 catches and one big time one down the field. I don't think we're going to get anything game breaking the rest of the way. But you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins, and he obviously played a really good game tonight. I think it's legit, and I think that as we mentioned when he got traded there, he was going to improve the offensive efficiency and some of the more volume numbers at the very least, especially in the red zone. But I think the Chiefs also did a really good job taking advantage of a really advantageous matchup on the outside with Hayes on the Buccaneers. I mean, he played terrible tonight in all facets of the game. He wasn't tackling, wasn't covering, and Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, those guys, when they see a mismatch like that, they're going to take advantage, and that's just what they did with DeAndre Hopkins, whose big highlight of the night was Mahomes under pressure, fitting it in between 2 defenders. Winfield kind of misplayed it a little bit, and D-Hop just shows kind of that he's still got it in the sense of he climbs the ladder, goes up, makes a big catch, and found him in the end zone as well. So a big add for the offense.
You kind of saw, though, in the second half, too, like when the rain started to come down, that both teams played vastly different than they played in the first half. It was short passes more often. Like you didn't see a throw over 15 yards really in the second half at all when that rain was coming down. And, it worked for both sides. They were able to – both defenses stayed their schemes basically the same thing as they did in the first half, and both offenses took advantage of it. We'll get to a comment right here. Trey and his boy Gino, loyal follower, early bird. Trey, he loves Geno Smith, and he says Geno Smith MVP type season. I think this leads to a bigger question, though, that I was talking to someone on Reddit about fantasy football. Geno Smith's long-term outlook in Seattle, Brady, do you think this could be his last season with the team, or do you think Geno at least has another year locked up in Seattle?
I do think it could be because number one, they have a young coach in Mike McDonald, who I think is gonna maybe want to go get his guy or
Yeah,
develop at least a younger guy. At the very least, they have Sam Howell in house, who we saw with a really bad Washington team last year,
yeah,
really bad O line, did have some good volume numbers, obviously things to clean up there. But the same goes for Gino. And maybe Mike McDonald decides to go with the younger guy that he feels is more of a project. But I think if the Seahawks continue to free fall like they have, losing 5 of their last 6, I think it is, that we might see them in the top 10 and we might see them pick a quarterback and let Gino get out of there. And have Mike McDonald kind of develop a young rookie.
yeah. No, I agree with you. I think Geno's time is ticking, and we've seen this over the past few weeks to where Geno like started the season really hot against bad defenses to start the season, and as of late, he's been unraveling lately with turnovers, bad decision making, and inconsistency. Obviously, the injury to DK Metcalf doesn't help. You still have two really good receivers. You have two really good running backs, and the thing that's interesting about Geno is he does have like moments of high level play where he looks like a solid quarterback in the league, but it's just not like consistent enough for me to say, yeah, Geno's our long term option. He's not necessarily young by any means. And I think it wouldn't hurt. Like we even saw the Falcons with Kirk Cousins. They locked him into a 4-year deal and they were like, yeah, Michael Penix is going to be our future here in Atlanta, despite how long it could take. I could see the Seattle Seahawks doing something similar, going for that quarterback option, potentially either in this draft or next draft, and holding on to Geno to let that guy kind of sit and develop. That would be the luxury of having a guy like Geno Smith, who isn't necessarily bad, and you're not wasting the prime talent of your elite weapons out there. And I think I could really see them going that route. Obviously, they have a lot of problems to address on that offensive line and defense as well. So we'll see what they do in Seattle. But I do think they'll stick with him and try to find a different option at quarterback soon.
Yeah, I do want to segue that into, I think the Seahawks, if they keep losing, could just go into a full on rebuild and keep a couple core guys like Kenneth Walker, like JSN. But I think that DK Metcalf very well might be on his way out of Seattle as well. Maybe that's a hot
Really?
take, but I think that he might be somebody that they look to dump off and save some money at the end of the season to a wide receiver needy team. And I've seen a few of the teams that need receivers already being mentioned with him, obviously being mentioned with T. Higgins, but DK Metcalf is probably the second biggest name that I've seen floating out there.
Yeah, for sure. Riley Johnson, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Trey Toussaint still in here, loyal early bird. Uh, what I want to talk about kind of off of that too, we have the trade deadline approaching, pretty quickly tomorrow at 3 Central Time. I know 4 your time, the main time over there. But hey, who do you think is going to be dealt? Do you see any teams making a move before that deadline that could be a very valuable impact going forward on that playoff race?
I don't really see any big time players being moved, but maybe some kind of known names that aren't the highest impact players, like a Chase Young, like you mentioned, or something like that. But all in all, I'm not expecting any league breaking moves. I think the biggest names have already been dealt, like Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, one of the things, Adam Thielen's a name I think we need to be watching out for. There are some wide receiver needy teams, and I think the Bucs could be a team that's interesting. I know they're not out of it yet. Obviously, the losing streak doesn't help, but Adam Thielen could come in there and be a little interesting asset for them at wide receiver. I do think some other wide receiver needy teams could use him as well, and we'll see where he goes. I don't understand why some people like just think that the Ravens could be done at the deadline either. I think they could be in the move for another move. And then Riley's mentioning a little bit of Max Crosby. He ain't going anywhere. Him and Myles Garrett. Like, I don't understand. Like, this is what we were talking about earlier. We have
Crosby maybe in the offseason, maybe, but not
in the offseason, maybe, but we have just Twitter accounts that spam massive all pro names that are just never getting moved in an NFL
Dolph
trade.
Kleiman.
When have you ever seen like Devontae Adams is one of the biggest moves we've seen at a trade deadline in a long time. And we're going to see two elite all pro pass rushers get traded. Yeah, that's never happening. It's like stirring the pot a little bit, right? You want to see these moves because they're cool and you want to kind of build some other super teams around the NFL, but they're just not going to happen. We'll see in the offseason if they get dealt, but some pass rush heavy teams. We saw that the Lions potentially are close with Zadarius Smith. I don't know if that one's going to completely go through or not. It hasn't been finalized yet. That would be a boost for them.
It'd be his third NFC North team.
What do you say?
So that'd be his third NFC North team.
Yeah, that is true. I do think that one of the things, though, I will kind of segue off of this. Chicago's falling apart. Have you seen some of these interviews?
Yeah, I haven't seen a bunch of the interviews, but I have seen a bunch of stuff about just how DJ Moore has been disengaged and just has not had good body language at all and has kind of seemed out of it. And hopefully, for the sake of Caleb Williams in the future, it's more directed at Shane Waldron than Caleb, which I do believe it probably is. But I think he's just tired of having sucky offensive coordinators in Chicago between Getsy and Waldron.
Yeah, they got to make a move this offseason. And it'll be interesting because I don't think Eberflus is that bad of a coach. I know everybody is kind of the jury's out on Eberflus.
I think he's a coordinator type.
He tied himself to the wrong offensive coordinator the last 2 times, and that's going to screw him over. What Riley's saying here, Tay isn't changing the Jets. No, he's not. Do not buy back into the Jets. They are not back.
Devontae Adams posted, though. Rome wasn't built in a day either. Stop it. Him and Aaron Rodgers are both always on this melodramatic, cryptic social media BS, and they don't actually win meaningful games. So I'm with.
Yeah, I got no offensive line to win those games with.
Yeah, and the game that they just won was because they happened to go against maybe the one other team in the league that has a worse offensive line.
Just 2 teams battling it with the worst offensive lines in football. Before we wrap up the show and our last topic, if you guys have any other NFL questions below, let us know, and we will answer them before we close the show. Riley's got one right here. Rodgers washed. He's not – okay, what I'll say with this, washed is a relative term to the guy. Rodgers is not the Hall of Fame quarterback we've seen in his whole career, but he's not one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a very average quarterback in the NFL right now. Having no mobility after the Achilles injury and a bad offensive line doesn't help, but he's just average at this point in his career.
He falls somewhere on the spectrum between 2015 Peyton, 2020 Breeze, and like 2021 Brady, like somewhere in between those 3. Because I'm not sure he's quite as bad as Breeze and Peyton were, but he's obviously not the same level that 40s Brady was.
Riley wants to know Rodgers or Baker, and I think we're both saying Baker. Dude, I'm telling you, I tweeted this today. Baker is one of the funnest quarterbacks to watch in the NFL. Dude, it's grit, it's gunslinger, it's fun.
The only complaint that I have with Baker Mayfield sometimes is his pocket presence. I feel like sometimes he focuses a little bit too much on what's going on down the field and doesn't necessarily sense pressure the way that other guys do. But in terms of his accuracy, in terms of his throws on the run, and in terms of his like velocity, all the other intangibles, I think Baker's a pretty freaking good quarterback.
Yeah. Would you agree that he's top 10?
Yeah, especially this season, easily top 10.
I think he's made it pretty clear he's a top 10.
I had him fringe top 10 at the end of last season. I wanted to see it again in Tampa, and we have. So,
Sam Darnold fall off happening?
I think so, and I don't think that he's turning into like Jet Sam Darnold magically again, but I think it was a bit of a mirage what we were seeing at the beginning of the year. Oh, could Darnold be the MVP? Oh, he's going crazy right now. Nah, it's still going to be JJ McCarthy at some point next year.
He's in that like 16 to 20 range, right around there. Like him and Rodgers are very.
How you want is your great backup. He's like maybe the best backup in the league, one of the 3 best backups probably. But he's not.
We're about to see Carson Wentz tonight too, and I was like, obviously, like the situation around that, I wasn't even thinking about Carson Wentz, but Wentz is one of the better backups. And
I don't know why, maybe I'm in the minority here. I don't know why everybody was like freaking out when that thing happened. Like
it was non-contact. That's why.
As soon as he was on the ground, I saw him mouth that I'm fine. Saw him like, I think if it was a truly bad injury, you would have seen a competitor like Mahomes be a lot more animated than he was and a lot more fired up.
That's
like the way he was against Jacksonville in that playoff game, the mic'd up we've seen it. He wasn't acting like that, so I had a feeling that we would see him the next drive.
It was just like, okay, so with all the injuries we've had this year, it was like, oh, man. Because, I mean, everybody, and then every non-contact injury you've seen this year, you're just like, oh, it's Achilles or it's something really bad.
Yeah.
And once it was like non-contact, I was like, oh, this could be really bad, but obviously just turned out to be a re-roll of the ankle he sprained last week. So Luckily, we didn't get Carson Wentz in there. Riley, Ladder, Marv. Hey, shout out to Riley Johnson for carrying the stream.
Yeah, hey, let's go, Riley. Turn
Hey,
me up.
Riley, you might not have been an early bird, but hey, you're carrying in the second half of here. That boy Jacob's been slacking lately in the
I'm telling
comments.
you, I don't know where Jacob's been at. I think maybe
Him and Maga, man, bro, they disappeared.
I'm telling you, bro. Bad boy CC don't
Bad boy
talk to me
CC
no
been
more.
missing, bro. We had some loyal fans be missing lately. But
Telling
Ladder,
you.
Marv, who's the better rookie so far? This one's tougher than people want to say, but I'm going to say Marv still just because I think Marv is being overshadowed by a bad offense coordinator. They're not doing a good enough a job scheming him open when he is basically their only playmaker at receiver right now. And I feel like that's contributing to, worse box score stats than he's actually been playing right now. And Ladd obviously has one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL in Justin Herbert. And a lot of teams are stacking the boxes against the Chargers, providing him with a bunch of opportunities for basically one-on-one routes and some ability to move in space. But Ladd's been really good. Obviously, been better than a lot of other rookies this season. What is your take?
Yeah, I think that I would still lean Marvin just off. I think statistically, pure statistics, I don't know. I haven't compared off the top of my head. Lad might have the edge, but in terms of what they offer and what I've seen on film, I think Marvin does a pretty good job getting open. I just think that Kyler Murray is not going to force feed him the ball, as he said early on in the season. B, the Cardinals are still learning how to use him and not necessarily drawing things up for him the way I think the Chargers have for Ladd at times. And I mean, see, like you said, part of this goes into what I was just saying, but the offensive coordinator, like you said, is not good for them. Greg Roman, even though people may have their thoughts, at the very least, usually has a pretty efficient offense and sticks to what he wants to do, which is run the ball and find guys underneath, which is pretty suitable for Ladd. So I think it's close this year, but I'm going to go with Ryan and the guy that I think long term is the better player and has been a little bit better on tape, Marvin Harrison.
100% agree, Riley. The Cards do need to give him more targets, but hey, we really appreciate you guys that tuned into the live tonight. For those of you guys on YouTube, make sure you guys let us know down below if you have any NFL questions. We'll be answering them when we see your comment. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Blitz Angle.
See y'all next time.